Ladies and gentlemen, in this gaming video, we're going to be discussing the graphical comparison of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag with the PC and the PS4 as a subject matter. We also have an article on this very video with a very high resolution 1080p screenshots, so you can check those out for more in-depth coverage if you so wish. Now, we're running the PC version on the very highest settings with MSAA ×2. And the reason we've gone ×2 is because it's probably about the fairest you can compare against a console. If you go any higher, it just becomes ludicrous where the game just looks so smooth. There's not really a super comparison. Plus as well, you're going to need quite high-end rig. So we're trying to keep things as close as possible and focus mostly on the graphics rather than adding in tons of anti-aliasing. Anyway, so let's talk about the two versions. Right, first of all, the PC version does have a few changes. The first is that it has improved versions of HBAO, which means horizon-based ambient occlusion. In case you're not too familiar with what any of that means, it's basically a lighting technique. It pretty much allows the game engine to better approximate how light and shadows and so on will actually interact in real life with an object. So for example, not just say something shiny like a mirror, but also walls and other objects. Lighting in real life is actually pretty difficult to replicate because it's not just a case of, oh okay, like a torch or say the sun is creating light. There's actually a lot more besides. For example, musket fire, ship battles, barrels going boom, even other things such as say light reflecting off of a sword and goodness knows what else. There can be a lot to it. So there's definitely that. The PC version also is not locked to 30 frames a second, which is quite a nice touch in my opinion, and it does make it quite beautiful running. There are a couple of other things as well, such as 4K support, as well as NVIDIA's hardware physics. However, the hardware physics has not been implemented yet. It's coming in an upcoming patch, and I could not include it into this graphical comparison because it is simply not available yet. Hardware physics, in my opinion, is going to make quite a bit of difference in some areas because it really helps to promote very nice looking fog, for example, fluid dynamics and so on, look absolutely amazing with hardware physics enabled. You also get much better particle effects and so on. However, as I said, that's not available yet. However, as soon as the patch becomes available, we will cover it, of course, on RGT. As for the PS4 version, we are running the patched version, which definitely does look a hell of a lot better than unpatched. Now, in case you're not familiar with what the patch does, it first of all adds the ability, well, it makes the title render 1080p internally rather than 900p, which is quite nice, but the biggest is the anti-aliasing. So it smooths out a lot of the jaggies you'll find on, say, round looking textures, or if you're looking at, say, something from an angle, you can sometimes notice jaggies without the patch. With the patch, it eliminates a lot of them. However, in my personal opinion, I still prefer the look of MSAA ×2 on the PC, but it's a hell of a lot closer. We have done some internal testing at RGT, and honestly speaking, without the patch, it's quite noticeable, in my personal opinion anyway, particularly with the jaggies. Texture quality on the PS4 is absolutely phenomenal, especially if you compare it to, say, what the previous generation could muster. This is, of course, because of the rather ludicrous amount of memory that they managed to jam-pack into the system. So, unlike previously where the PC had a lot more RAM than the consoles, this is no longer the case. The consoles have enough to be able to utilize high-resolution textures. Therefore, it's no longer like you're looking at porcelain dolls, for example, with the Xbox 360. I, of course, exaggerate a little bit, but you get the idea. That means that when I was looking at the fine details, for example, the characters' cuffs and, say, wood textures on the characters' weapons, you can actually notice that a lot of that fine detail is still there. Sometimes you can notice that it's a little bit more etched in or a little bit more shadow detail. That's because of HBAO on the PC version. Once again, if you want those images, you can check out the article where there is a hell of a lot of them. There are small images, and then if you click on them, they'll, open up in a new window in their full 1080p glory. So which version would I personally buy? Well, we own both. obviously to make the graphical comparison. However, personally, if I had a high-end rig, which I obviously do, but assuming you have a good enough rig to run it, I would definitely get the PC version. There's a couple of reasons. One, it's cheaper. It costs about £20 less than the PS4 version. I bought it from Amazon for about 27. I'm rounding it up. It's about £27 compared to 47 for the PS4 version. Second reason is you get it at 60 frames per second, or whatever your PC can run it at. And third reason is HBAO. However, I will say that I'm really looking forward to seeing what NVIDIA hardware physics looks like on it. On the other hand, if you are unable to play the PC version and you're going to be playing on the PS4, don't despair. It is really good, and you're going to definitely have to notice the two versions running side by side. And considering that Ubisoft had to basically rush to get this version out, and that's telling because of the last minute patch that they had to release to even get the damn thing to run at 1080p, it's obvious that they've barely tapped into the potential of the PS4, and we're going to be seeing a lot better. And I also think the same for the Xbox One and for the PC, when they no longer have to worry so much about the constraints of the next generation. So I'm hoping the next Assassin's Creed, they're going to improve on these anti-aliasing techniques and sort out a lot of the problems that they've got now. Regardless, the game on the PS4 runs pretty damn solid at 30 frames a second for my own internal testing, and honestly speaking, textures, lighting and everything else look amazing on the PS4. I'm really happy with the version. As I said, from our own internal testing, it does look pretty damn impressive, and I'm really happy with what Ubisoft have managed on both platforms. With all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.